You ever say something or do something and someone reacts way more strongly than you expected? Maybe they suddenly light up or back off or open up, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, wait, what just happened? You didn't plan it. You weren't trying to manipulate anyone, but somehow something you did clicked inside their mind. And that's because, whether you knew it or not, you just used a psychological trigger, one that bypassed logic and went straight to the emotional core. Here's the wild part. Most of us are using these triggers all the time, without realizing it. And those moments, those strange little interactions you can't quite explain, might not be accidents at all. They might be patterns you've picked up over time. From survival, from connection, from instinct. And today, I want to walk you through this, not with a boring list of bullet points, but with real-life moments, stories, conversations you've probably had or will have that'll make you go, oh my God, I do that too. Because this isn't about psychology you read in a book. It's the kind you live, the kind you feel. Let's get into it. You ever notice how when someone tells you a secret, even a small one, you start to feel closer to them, like it doesn't even have to be dramatic? Maybe they tell you something like, honestly, I didn't sleep much last night. I was just thinking about stuff. Suddenly, you're in a different space with them. It's not surface level anymore. You're behind the curtain. Now think about how often you say things like that without realizing the effect it has. Maybe you tell someone, I actually hate big parties, or I get nervous when I have to speak in meetings, and without knowing it, you've just pulled them closer. That's a psychological trigger called vulnerability, and it makes people lean in, not because they're nosy, but because they see you as human. And the moment you let someone see your real self, even just a flicker, they remember it, they feel it. That's not manipulation, that's authenticity, and ironically, it's one of the most powerful tools people use without knowing it. We crave connection, but it starts when someone's willing to go first. Let's shift to something a little different. Ever been in a room where everyone's kind of looking around, unsure of what to do? Maybe it's at a dinner or a meeting, or even a group chat online. And then one person says, I think we should try this, and suddenly everyone follows. That's not just leadership. That's another trigger, certainty. People are drawn to it like a magnet. When someone walks into a space and acts like they know, even if they're not totally sure, others tend to follow. Why? Because we're wired to seek safety, and certainty feels safe. The crazy part? You might do this all the time, without noticing. Like when you order first at a restaurant, or when you say, I know the best way to get there. You're not trying to control anyone, but your certainty makes people trust you, even in subtle ways. It's that quiet confidence. And the wild thing, you don't need to be right. You just need to own it. But what about those moments where you say nothing and still shift the vibe completely? You ever walk into a room and someone just feels different? They haven't said anything. They're just there, calm, collected, a little mysterious, and you find yourself paying attention, not because they're loud, but because they're still. There's a reason for that too. Silence can be a psychological trigger. It creates tension, space, mystery. And here's the kicker, you might be using it all the time. Think about when you're in a disagreement, and instead of defending yourself right away, you just stay quiet. That pause, that silence, it's powerful. It makes people lean in, wonder what you're thinking. Sometimes silence is louder than words, especially in a world where everyone's rushing to talk. There's also this thing that happens in everyday conversation. Maybe you've done this. You mention something random, like, I love rainy mornings, or I used to ride my bike every day when I was a kid. And someone else's eyes light up. They say, me too. Suddenly, you're not strangers anymore. You're similar. This is the trigger of shared identity. It's why people bond over TV shows, sports teams, favorite snacks, even trauma. When you mirror someone's experience, it feels like home. You don't even have to plan it. It just happens. and the other person thinks, I like you. You get me. You've probably used this in so many subtle ways. Maybe you change how you speak when you're around different groups. Or you mention something you know the other person relates to, not to manipulate, but to connect. That's the thing. Psychological triggers aren't about tricks. They're about instincts. They're ancient, and you're already fluent in them, even if you don't realize it. Let me tell you a quick story. A friend of mine was at a job interview. He's sharp, well-spoken, the whole deal. But halfway through, the interviewer asked him, "Tell me about a time you failed." He paused, then said, "Honestly, I froze during a pitch once, completely blanked. But I made a joke, laughed at myself, and the client laughed too. We recovered. I learned a lot." And you know what happened? He got the job. Not because of his resume, but because of that moment. That tiny, unscripted story of failure and recovery. It triggered something real, relatable, trustworthy. That's what people forget. Human behavior isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. You might not think you're influencing anyone, but trust me, you are. Every time you respond to someone's energy, every time you pause before speaking, every time you say something that feels oddly familiar to them, that's psychology in motion, not clinical, not cold, but living, breathing, messy psychology, the kind that runs in our bones. You might already be using tone shifts to calm people down, or eye contact to build trust, or humor to break tension. These are all micro-triggers, and they change everything, not by force, but by feel. So here's the real question. Now that you know you're using these triggers, without even realizing it, what would happen if you used them intentionally? What if you leaned into your natural ability to connect, to calm, to lead, to resonate? Not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by becoming more aware of who you already are, because that's the power here. It's not about adding something, it's about noticing what's already working. Think about the way you comfort a friend, or the way you stand up for yourself when something crosses a line, or the way you just know when someone's not telling the full truth. That's your mind using centuries of human wiring. It's not manipulation, it's instinct. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. So the next time someone leans in a little closer when you speak, or follows your lead without hesitation, or opens up to you without knowing why, just remember, you're not just a person in the room. You're a psychological force, and you've been one all along.